Hi everyone, I'm Jess and you are watching Discern with Jim Denison. Today is Tuesday, November 30th. So it's kind of crazy to think that COVID-19 has been a part of our lives for almost 2 years now. And even though things aren't entirely back to normal, it's just kind of crazy that a new variant has popped up. It's called Omicron, and so that's what we're going to be talking about today. And so this is from Reuters. Authorities around the world have reacted with alarm to a new coronavirus variant detected in South Africa. Britain, the European Union, and India are among those announcing stricter border controls as scientists carry out tests to determine if the mutation is more transmissible or infectious than other variants, or is resistant to vaccines. The country has identified about 100 cases of the variant, mostly from its most populated province, Gauteng. UK Health Security Agency Chief Medical Advisor Susan Hopkins told BBC Radio that some mutations had not been seen before, so it was not known how they would interact with other ones, making it the most complex variant seen to date. So Jim, like I said, it's been almost 2 years since COVID kind of turned the world upside down, and last year was really hard for everyone, I think. But it's also just still sad that a new variant is coming around right around Christmas. And so, yeah, it's just feeling a bit somber and sad. But in your daily article, you've said that this isn't the first time that Christmas has come during hard times. Can you explain what you meant by that?
Yeah, and Jess, you're exactly right. It's really so tough to go through this for 2 years and then to see this new variant and the possibility, we don't know yet, but the possibility that it could be on some level immune to our vaccines or to antibodies. And what does that mean? And I mean, it just kind of all crashes in again, doesn't it? And you think, especially at Christmas, just seems so unfair for this to be happening right now. In fact, the news broke on Friday, the first day of the official Christmas season. But the first Christmas was anything but an idyllic time for the world. You're in the Roman Empire, of course. It was the largest, mightiest, wealthiest empire ever known to human history. But the issues they were facing with Jess are in many ways far more difficult than those that we're facing even today. A few examples of that. Some half of those born in the Roman Empire did not see their 10th birthday. About half. Infant mortality was so bad that nearly half did not live to the age of 10. In fact, I didn't put this in the daily article, but a number of Roman families will not even name their children for several months after their birth because they were so afraid that they would die and they wanted to be less attached to them. Disease was rampant in the first century. There was some recent excavation of some tombs in first century Palestine where they found evidence of tuberculosis and of leprosy, of tapeworms even. Ancient writers talk about diseases and pestilence and leprosy epidemics. Lead poisoning was an issue. Gum disease was an issue. So they certainly had diseases just like we do. They were living in a very difficult time financially. A very small percentage of the population was wealthy. Everybody else was living by subsistence farming, most of them just barely getting by with no social security nets, no food stamps, nothing like that. Disease, disaster, even starvation could be a everyday present fact of life for those that were living in the time of the first Christmas. You think about the sexual immorality of the day that just I won't even describe in this conversation, but was much worse even than it is in our culture, as bad as it is in our day and in our time. And then, of course, they were living under the Roman Empire itself. They were enslaved, as it were, to the Romans. And so I just don't know anybody in America today that would trade places with those that were alive at the time of the first Christmas. If Jesus could come then his birth is relevant today as well.
That's a very helpful and interesting perspective to take just on Jesus's birth, because you're right. I think I can't imagine, being alive during that period of time. And yeah, I think it just makes Jesus's birth and his first coming even sweeter and more precious and dear to us. And so, like you said, if he were to come today, it would, have the same effect. But what does Jesus's choice to come when he did tell us about the relevance of Christmas for our souls today?
Yeah, we don't think about Christmas as a choice as often as perhaps we should. Jesus could have come at any point in human history. Could have come right after Adam and Eve if he'd wanted. Could have waited till last year or 100 years ago. Could have come 1,000 years before or after he did. He's the only baby in all of history who chose his parents, and he chose peasant a peasant teenager, probably 13 or 14 years of age, and a husband who was living in very difficult economic conditions. He chose to grow up in a town so small it's not mentioned even once in the Old Testament or by Josephus. He chose to live at a point in history, which, as we said, was a very challenged, difficult point in history. And I think one thing we can learn from that is if Jesus would choose to come then, his birth then is just as relevant today as it was then. He cares as much about us as he did for them. He is just as relevant to our needs, to our pain, to our disease, to our grief, to our fears, as he was to theirs. If he could give them abundant life, he can give us abundant life. If he could heal their bodies, he can heal our bodies. If his first followers could follow him in triumphant faith in the abundant life available in Christ, then so can we. So all of that to say, if we will do what the shepherds did, if we'll bow before Jesus this Christmas season, if every single day we'll go back to the manger, if every single day we'll bow and worship before the Christ, we will experience him just as they did. And we'll have all the power we need, we'll have all the hope we need, we'll have all the peace we need. And Christmas will be just as relevant and just as powerful today as when Christ first entered the human condition.
Yeah, I think something that I've been talking with my friends about is just beholding Jesus in this time. And like when we do that, it casts out fear and worry and all the things in the world that can go wrong and will go wrong. And so I think that's just a very helpful image to imagine us as the shepherds beholding Jesus. So Jim, thank you just for this different and fresh perspective on Jesus' birth. And I look forward to talking to you again soon. We will see you here tomorrow on Discern.